They say it was the worst kept secret in Hollywood, Harvey Weinstein's predatory ways. Yet it's been nearly 40 years since Miramax was founded, and only now are the floodgates apparently opening, with more than 24 women coming forward so far claiming sexual harassment and in some cases rape. A warning to parents: you may not want your kids to hear some of what we're about to play, but these are just some of these women's stories.
He went to the bathroom, came back out of the bathroom in a robe, and asked me to give him a massage. I said no, I didn't feel comfortable. He said, everybody does it, and said, well, at least if you won't, give me a massage, then can I see your breasts? Will you lift up your shirt and let me see your breasts?
He returned in nothing but a robe with the front open, and he was buck naked. I told him I was leaving. He quickly got it out of the tub and grabbed my forearm as I was trying to grab my purse, and he led me to his bathroom, pleading that I just watch him masturbate.
I knew there were more women. I knew it because of the way, the casual manner in which took place between us. I knew that he had done that kind of thing before, probably hundreds of times.
With so many women with stories like these, the question is, at least for me, how is this man not in jail? Joining me with answers, I hope, are retired federal judge Nancy Gertner. Nice to see you, Judge.
Good to be here.
Former Attorney General for Massachusetts, now senior counsel with Kasner and Edwards LLP, Scott Harsharger. Good to see you. And Sally Gaglini, an entertainment lawyer, Suffolk Law School professor, and author of Young Performers at Work, Child Star Survival Guide. Nice to see you, Sally. Thanks for coming. Can I start with the two people who have actually sent people to jail, starting with you? Why is this guy not in jail, Nancy Gertner?
Well, it says something about whether the people were willing to come forward, whether willing to testify.
There's a wiretap. The New York Police Department has a wiretap where he's basically acknowledged that he grabbed the breasts of this young woman, and Cy Vance, the DA, chooses not to prosecute.
That's a puzzlement. That's the only thing I can think of is that ultimately there was sexual harassment, there was touching in a busy court that doesn't amount to rape. It should perhaps, but it doesn't amount to rape. It could be that overall he didn't think that enough was said or done to justify charges.
By the way, he got a $100,000 contribution from the lawyer for Weinstein several months after this thing. What's your answer to that?
Well, I think that Nancy has dealt with this, and one of the issues is, were the witnesses actually prepared to testify? What exactly was the conduct? Was it rape? Was it inappropriate behavior? Was it sexual harassment? And also, the facts matter hugely here in terms of these kinds of prosecutions.
Why yesterday did you touch my breasts? Oh, please, I'm sorry. To me, that's a good start, is it not?
Well, it's
on tape.
Sure it is. Sure it is. But look at even our issues with the schools or with the church or others. Over time, the question is, were the witnesses credible at the time? Did they have the corroborating witness? There's understandable, but part of it is the culture of this whole place, of the silence that was imposed upon so many women who were put in this very difficult situation.
You reserve the criminal, I'm not justifying this actually, but you reserve the criminal penalty for the most serious acts. And what she said was clearly sexual harassment. But whether that should have been the subject of a criminal trial is another question. Bearing in mind, if he goes in that direction, it's actually harder to convict.
Okay, so you haven't sent anybody to jail. Should he have gone to the can?
I haven't sent anybody to jail. Okay, so I'm going to defer to Nancy on this and Scott. But what I will say is that these allegations are allegations. And, it will have to go to court to determine what the penalty should be.
But allegations, I know this doesn't relate to the one case where there's the wiretap, unlike Roger Ailes or Bill O'Reilly, for example, this guy is not denied. Some of these he's denied, and he said consensual in some cases, but he is not denied.
Jim, he wouldn't have gone to jail even if they went ahead with this prosecution.
Why not? It's a misdemeanor with a 3-month... Yeah, but you know what would happen? I mean, again, I should be telling a judge this. If it turns out he had been prosecuted here, it's likely it would have been a heads up for young women and their parents and their agents in the future.
That is true of all white-collar crime. If we would have prosecuted a CEO in the course of the financial institution scandals, that might have sent a message to everybody else. But the difficulty...
Were you ever in the business of message sending, by the way, when you were Attorney General? Because, for example, there was a priest by the name of Gagan who went to jail for 10 years, was killed in jail. 10 years for a minor assault as compared to what he really did and was never. It's sort of like the O.J. kind of thing. Did you ever do those kind of symbolic things to make a point to the next criminal?
Hopefully only if you had the facts and could prove beyond a reasonable doubt that that was the conduct, which is what Nancy is saying about the burden of a criminal trial, particularly where you're going to have major white-collar lawyers where all kinds of...
Can I just stay on this for one more second? I learned from Jeffrey Toobin, one of my idols, last night on CNN, there's no statute of limitations on sexual assault in New York.
Right.
Is it possible, even if it's years after the fact, that Cy Vance may grow a spine or something, or there may be some prosecution, or are these things too old?
Well, no, I mean, it's possible, but you understand what would have happened here is that there would have been a misdemeanor charge. He would have talked about how he's in therapy, and he wouldn't have gotten any
So talk
charge.
to the women who, in Vanity Fair, to Ronan Farrow, say they were raped. Move on to other
That's
cases.
a different issue.
Can we talk? You wrote this
That's a
book
different
called
issue.
Young Performers at Work. I mean, talk about time. I know you meant child performers. If we really made, I've heard all this stuff in the last years. You made such progress. This guy's going to be brought to some level of justice, or at least his career put over. Or is this still a world where the powerful can prey on the young and the powerless?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think there has been a lot of advancement. There are plenty of production companies that do good deeds and works. Perhaps there should be a fair standard award, a good doobie award.
If you don't assault the young, I'm serious.
No,
I mean,
actually, if you treat the people who work for your production as fairly behind the camera as you do in front of it. So that, really, under the circumstances, you have a model where you commercialize good works.
You were involved both as a DA and as Attorney General in a lot of similar sort of situations. I don't know if you're involved with, performers kind of thing, but you mentioned some of the things in the past. Have we made progress? I mean, Donald Trump admitted on tape that he was grabbing the you-know-whats, genitalia of women. With all due respect, Bill Clinton doesn't have a fabulous record. He's one of the most popular politicians in America.
The locker room banter, but let me make
so
one
he
point.
says.
One point. Where were the boards?
Yeah.
Where were the people who oversee the company? What happened to Jim was a classic case. As long as the money was being made, the reputation of the company was prized over any individual claim. There were settlements involved. The board did nothing about it. In other words, a whole range of people. Who
Do the enablers have any? I want to get to you in a second. On the progress thing, do the enablers? I mean, for example, this back and forth is Ben Affleck says, "I'm saddened and angry that a man who I work with, I'm shocked. I'm sort of like Captain Renault." And then Rose McGowan tweets, Ben Affleck, God damn it, I told him to stop doing that. You said that to my face. The press conference I made to go to after assault, you lie. She's basically saying Ben Affleck knew about this, kept working with him, and is a liar. Do these enablers have any...
They have
liability?
Well, these companies are going to be sued. I mean, that's but part of the problem was there are two buckets that we've been dealing with this. One is a criminal prosecution, and we talked about some of the difficulties of that. The other bucket was sexual harassment lawsuits.
Civil liability.
Civil liability. The numbers of women sued, and they settled confidentially, very much like the Catholic Church. The settlements, confidential settlements work with respect to the ma and pa shop, where if you have to pay out $20,000, you're going to make sure this guy doesn't get hired. But with something like Weinstein, who cares? This was funny money.
When you were a young lawyer before you were a judge.
I'm still a young lawyer.
Yeah, when you were a young lawyer before you were a judge, you told me about a case you had that bears some resemblance.
So a high-profile, high-achieving Harvard Law graduate who went to work at an entertainment law firm in L.A., within a week of her arriving there, she's working for one particular partner. The partner says, come to my house and review this contract with me. She opens the door to his house, and he's in his underwear. And thereafter, there were sexual suggestions, and he wanted her essentially to entertain the customers. We sue. We go into mediation. At that point, I call every young woman who had ever interacted with this guy.
Let me guess, same story.
Well, literally, one woman said to me, you want to know about the sex or the drugs? And it was the same kind of story, which is the other partners knew exactly what was going on. As I said, the footnote to the story is in the middle of the litigation, one of those partners came to my door.
And?
I opened, excuse me?
To your room?
To my room.
So is this, I mean... that's the industry in which you work.
I haven't had anybody come to my hotel room
No, but I'm
like
serious.
that. But,
I mean, is this that out of the norm? It doesn't sound to me like it is.
Well,
when you have these powerful, egomaniacal, Weinstein-like characters.
The production companies that do good works and have really phenomenal people working for them who you would want your children to and grandchildren to intern for, they don't make the headlines.
The Obamas wanted their child to intern for Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah,
I assume they didn't. They thought they were getting the cream of the crop.
Well, you know, I don't know what to say about that, except it happened, right?
I think that, has there been progress? Yes. But the fact is that in this case, the only reason we're hearing about this, respectfully, is because he was losing power. And gradually somebody began to blow the whistle and they start to step up.
Right,
this occurred also with every kind of a scandal like that. The secret gets held. People think they're the only ones involved, or if the whistleblower has to pay such a price to come forward that to say this is over?
On people like the two of you, what you did in your former lives, because it seems to me, just like if there had been one master of the universe with an orange jumpsuit, we may not have seen the financial collapse we ended up seeing.
That's true.
And my sense here is if one Harvey Weinstein, whoever it is, has that same orange jumpsuit, some of these guys are going to think twice. You don't think so?
But it's true. But Bill Cosby, I mean, one of these episodes
Has he been convicted of anything? No.
But he's ruined. But he's ruined. I mean, one episode had been in 2014. I mean, it would be one thing if these were, 20-year-old events. This was 2014 when there had already been the picture of Roger Ailes. I mean, part of it is it sounds like an obsession. It sounds like an obsession, and that's the component. His is an obsession, lots of enablers, and women were afraid to come forward.
My worry is not the obsession. My worry is it an aberration or not, and I would say it probably isn't. We got to go. My apologies, Judge. It's good to see you.
Have board members take responsibility for their companies.
I am totally with you. Scott Harsharger, good to see you. Sally, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much for your time. Appreciate it.